Welcome back to the Write It Down podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Murata, bringing you one-on-one interviews to challenge, inspire, and encourage. Today, we welcome lobbyist, consultant, and industry leader Steve Scofes. Steve has been a part of many noteworthy negotiations with Fortune 500 companies, success in federal procurement within the DoD, and more recently, worked diligently on President Trump's campaign. I'm excited to share the excellent and notable story of Steve Scofes. You know what to do. Sit back, relax, and get your pens ready because this is Write It Down. Welcome back to the Write It Down podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Murata, on the mic with Steve Scofes. Steve, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. It's an honor to join you this morning.
I met Steve through our beloved friend, Reggie Ball. Reggie, if you guys have watched or listened to this podcast over the years, you all know Reggie is just the greatest human to exist. And he is a connector of people, and he connected me with Steve a couple months ago. And so I'm just super thrilled to be able to finally host you, as we've been running around like crazy. And it's the holiday season. As you can see, the reindeer behind me and the stockings, and it's 11 degrees where Steve's at today. So he's pretty frigid. But Steve, it's just an honor to have you today on the Write It Down podcast.
Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to share some stories and fun things, fun facts that evolve in my life.
Absolutely. When Steve and I connected a couple months ago, we had a great phone call, and I was like, man, sometimes when I meet people I'm connected to, I'm like, I wish this phone call was recorded, because I was just in awe of all the things that you have done, all the things that you have seen in your life. So let's kind of jump right into maybe one of your favorite initiatives that you've been a part of. I know you have a whole Rolodex of contacts. I know you have just a ton of businesses you've been involved in, but what would you say has been like the most impactful or important initiative you've been a part of?
Well, that's a great one because there's a lot of them, and I mean, maybe for your listeners, I have been a sports agent. I been involved a lot in the entertainment industry, but also took left that field and went into the political arena where I started lobbying and cutting my teeth on Capitol Hill and the trenches there, and then also in state legislatures and building a firm that represents companies not only on Capitol Hill in Washington, but also in state capitals as well. So we've got really a great company with a lot of blue chip clients and Fortune 100 and 500 companies that we represent. And so I've been involved in a lot of things and a lot of issues, whether they've been pharmaceutical issues, gaming issues, manufacturing issues, and there's been a lot of successes. And I think in my business too, you really look at the end of the year. Do you have more wins than losses? Because you're not going to win them all.
Right.
And that's been a blessing that we have had those wins. I think if we want to stay current with the state of things with in politics with the recent reelection of President Trump to the White House in January. I had the opportunity to work with President Trump before he was president, and I did a lot of his casino work, and then also had the opportunity to run a campaign for him in Michigan to put a team together, which was the third party that Ross Perot started. And I'll never forget the phone call, from President Trump, Mr. Trump at that time saying, "Hey, he's a master of public relations and marketing, and he just said, I've got a book coming out. I need to finish second." And in this race, and well, we finished first, and so that was gratifying. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
gratifying. But
Yeah.
who would know that was back in the 1990s? But then again, there were all little hints with him being on the Oprah Winfrey show saying, would you ever run for president? So it's been really an interesting journey. But there's been a lot of other great things that I've worked with. I'm really honored to be business partners with General Wesley Clark and doing a lot of work with him. Wes, is a four-star Supreme Commander, 4-star General Supreme Commander in NATO, and ran for president. But doing a bunch of Department of Defense work with him was very gratifying to being able to travel
Yeah.
with him overseas and see some things that normally, maybe the average person would be able to get to see.
Yeah. What are some things, that the average or common man would be probably blown away by? Things that you can share with us that you'd be like,
Yeah.
wow, like whether it's overseas, whether it's, domestic, what are some of the things that we would probably be like, whoa, I had no clue that something like that was going on, or some fact about our country or relationships?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because I think about that a lot. I think of late, there's been a lot of these aha moments where we're like, whoa, what's this? And, I've been a part of the system for 30 years and,
Hmm.
I become somewhat cynical even on what I do. I mean, I work with both sides of the aisle, have to get along with both sides of the aisle. And there's a lot of good people on both sides of the aisle. And there's a lot of not good people, that don't put America first. And, I just think that, in my opinion, some of the things that I think I've seen, I've always known that there was corruption in any government, including ours, but I never knew that there was this much corruption within our government. And shocking because I'm right in the middle of it, right? This is what
Right.
I do.
Right.
And so that really opened my eyes to seeing a lot of things that, took place the last 4 years. And I think the thing that bothered me the most, you can set aside politics and, I respect whoever anybody wants to vote for and what their issues are and having an intellectual conversation with them. And, you can always agree to disagree, which is fine. And, in my business, the art of negotiations and is communicating. And usually, when both sides leave unhappy, something good's been done, right?
Yeah.
So I just think, in my mind that I think Americans are starting to open their eyes, wake up to see that maybe we've got a government that hasn't really been for the people so much. And I think I'm hopeful that that'll change and that even people who maybe don't like or despise this new president, whatever, will give an opportunity because I give every president an opportunity because we want them to do well because if they do well, then we know that our country and
The
we're
country
going to.
will do well. Yeah.
So yeah,
Whether
so
you
I just
agree with
think I
every
just
single
think
thing. Yeah.
yeah, the weaponization of the justice system really bothered me. But hope is an important thing, and we all need to keep hope and not lose hope, and we're hoping for better days to come. But
Yeah,
it's not going to be
absolutely.
easy. It's going to be rocky.
I
For
think it's interesting times we've lived in, and even the last like 5 years, we're coming up on 2025, and in 2020 we were all like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the year, right? It just felt like a round number. It felt just like whole. It felt like exciting that we reached 2020, and then a couple months in it was like world shut down.
yeah,
And so much has happened since then, and not that I want to go totally down that rabbit trail, but it's like now we're coming into 2025, almost a full 5 years later from the pandemic,
yeah,
from the, financial upset, like everything was just kind of in turmoil. And now we've been in a more hostile political climate.
yeah.
And it's interesting. And I really like what you said is like, if you don't agree with whoever is in office, it is still important as an American citizen to hope for the best because if they do well, we do well.
That's
Right.
right.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's a really good mindset to have and in your life as a consultant for not just in politics but in business as well. Have you found where again, politics or like representing like Toyota, NASCAR, all the other things that you've been involved in, have you had things that have changed your mind during the process? So you might have been voting or thinking one way, but you've been shifted another because you kind of see what's behind the curtain.
Yeah, yeah, no, I have. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's a saying, two things you never want to witness being made, and that's sausage and laws. And you don't want to see both those. Look, it's a system that I'm a part of that I know that needs reform. And again, people always ask, well, lobbyists, what does a lobbyist do? And I think what people have to understand that, everybody has lobbyists. Unions have them. teachers have them, manufacturers have them, businesses have, everybody has. And if you want to manufacture and you're manufacturing widgets, you don't have time to be in the Capitol, 4 or 5 days a week watching what these people are doing. And
Right.
therefore, we are hired people to go in and monitor what's going on and be able to take that side to that elected official, while the other side is going to take their side. And then, of
Right.
course, you hope that you're convincing enough more than the other side to let them see that your side is the correct way for them to vote. So, again, everybody has lobbyists, and in some cases now we're part of the problems because we're the ones, right, that funnel the money to these individuals to get elected, and I'm hopeful that there'll be some changes and reforms, and that Americans will be put first again, because I'm now at this point, right, where I've done this for a while, and I'm going to continue doing it, but I'm also shifting into some things that are my passion
Yep.
projects in life that I've wanted to do for such a long time. But time is everything, and a
Yep.
lot of times it's not on our time; it's on God's time.
God's time. Yeah. So what are some of those passion projects that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of the theater, of movies and the theater. And I got that from my mother, who, would take me to, Broadway plays, and to even, fighting and kicking, not wanting to go to a ballet, but then seeing Baryshnikov jump across the stage, the athleticism, like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I've always been that. I've always dabbled in wanting to produce certain films, wanting to do different things. So, I've got a lot of friends in the entertainment business, and I spent some time in Greece this spring, and working with ECOME, which is the Economic Development Corporation, to garner a 40% tax rebate on films, shooting films there.
Oh, wow.
And so laying the groundwork there. I've got a dear friend, the famous actor Billy Zane from Titanic and many other movies. And Billy's got a project that I'm helping him, that I really love, and to be filmed in Greece. And a lot of these things, you get your hopes up and you hope for the best, but a lot of these things in the entertainment world can blow up too.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as God keeps opening up doors and windows, whatever, that I know there's an opportunity. If those shut, then I know it's time to move on. I'm also, working on a Broadway musical. I'm acquiring the rights to a movie that won the Oscar in 1992 called Mediterraneo. It's an Italian film that won Best Foreign Film, and it's a beautiful story about make love, not war. And
Yeah.
the message is so timing right now. And it was a work in itself, just to be able to find the right people in Italy who had the rights, and to be able to negotiate with them. And
Wow.
so, yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a very difficult process. It could take 5 to 8 years. And, I'm good friends with Jim Belushi, and I was having a cigar and with him in Chicago. He said, don't make a Broadway play. It's too hard, too expensive. Make the movie. I go, well, Jim, the movie already won the Oscar. Why would I remake a movie?
Remake a movie. Yeah.
I'm stuck on this, traditional Broadway
That's so fun.
a play, that musical that I, hope hope will come to fruition. I joined forces with Matt Weaver, who's a well-known producer who produced Rock of Ages, the movie and the play, and
Hmm.
he's got a couple of plays right now. Broadway's Soul Train. He's got one he's working with Tim McGraw on. So, it's about really surrounding yourself with the right people. I have great ideas, but also you have to let and find the right people and let the professionals do what they do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so those are some of the projects that I'm doing, that I'm really excited about.
I love that. And I love what you said too about surrounding yourself with people that, are good at their craft, because I, met you and I'm like, this guy's a visionary. Like, you have really big vision and it's a gift. And I think it's really neat that not only do you have vision, but then you also hustle and you make connections with people. And it's it's such a beautiful art that you have that. And some people have it, some people don't, right? Some people are just would rather go to work and show up every day and clock out. And that's
Yeah.
also a beautiful gift that they have. And
Yeah.
so I think it's really cool that you have this big vision to kind of have your hand on in different, things, many pots on the stove, so to speak. And it's cool because you're at this point in your life where it's like they're kind of all crossing together in a certain way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm just, consultant for politics or for business, but it's like you have a passion of theater and Broadway and travel. And so all of those worlds are colliding, which I think is super cool. And I think it's important for those that are watching and listening too to just kind of stoke the fire in their own dreams, because
Yeah.
you could have a dream to be a doctor, but you could also be like, wow, I really enjoy landscaping. Who knows, like sky's the
Sure.
limit. And so I think it's really awesome that your stories on the show today are kind of showing us that, like, you don't have to be just this in this corner of the
That's
world.
right. Yeah.
And you don't have to fit in a box. And I think it's absolutely incredible. If you could cast anyone in a movie or in a Broadway musical, who would you want to be the lead?
Wow, that's a great, great question. Movie, I'm a big fan of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And you know, the reason why is because Tom puts 110% into everything he does.
Yeah.
A lot of people, well, I don't like him because he's, this or he's that, and whatever. And I don't care. I work hard all week, and if I go to the theater for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, I want to sit back and be entertained.
Hmm.
And when I go see a movie that he is in, I know it's going to be good. I know he's going to give 110%. So I'm a big fan of Tom Cruise. There's a lot of actors I love, um, I've been very blessed to meet a lot of them, from Gerard Butler, who my favorite played in 300, being Greek, and my grandfather and father from Sparta, Greece, was kind of neat. And but yeah, I'm looking at some of the new actors coming up, and and obviously in a Broadway, I'm going tonight to see Matteo Bocelli. That is Andrea Bocelli's son, who's just a magnificent a singer and pianist, and a very handsome young man. And obviously, I think about dreaming as this Mediterranean project, which is an Italian Greek type
Hmm.
film and story. How wonderful it would be to have someone like that
Yeah.
being musical with the Bocelli name and introducing him to a whole new audience. So who knows? You never know. And
Yep.
uh, it's there's no success without failure. And I have two daughters, and I tell them, you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. And you can't be afraid to take risks. My dad would always say, son, you're never going to get ahead in life unless you take a chance or take a risk. And
Yep.
it's scary, it's hard, but if you're willing to take that risk, I think there's that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And then, of course, we all hear this too, but follow your heart. You know, I think at the end of the day, now at my age and my point in my career, um, I don't want to use so much the word struggle, but in some ways I struggle. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I
Yeah.
doing what God has intended and wants me to do for my life? Am I
Hmm.
doing that? And you know, I don't know in some ways, but I think I'm getting there. And I think the entertainment side is that I love to move people, entertain people, get people to think. And what better way through movies, through music, to move people, because we know how music can move us, as well as maybe a good Broadway play or a good film.
Hmm.
It can teach us a lot, and we can learn a lot from it, and it can move us to make changes.
We're going to take a quick break to discuss Write It Down's brand new website. You can head over to widpod.com, WIDPOD.com, and see all the goods. You'll notice a banner at the top of the page that says Learn More. If you click that link, it'll show you how you can support Write It Down. P.S. My favorite part about the website is the WID wall, which is a collection of all the Write It Downs from the show. This podcast is made possible by the 1513 Network, so show the network some love and support by listening to their other shows. If not, just stick with Write It Down, because I'm the coolest, the realest, the illest. Now, back to the show. I think music and the arts 100% have the power to move us. It's funny because at church, our pastor, the second Sunday of every month, he goes through a skepticism sermon, and it's basically like the rebuttal of atheists. So we take a break
Yeah.
from our sermon series or scripture, and he talks about like atheism.
Yeah.
And it's more apologetics of like, hey, Christians, like, why do we believe what we believe? And he had a sermon once that talked about music. He played Hans Zimmer, and he played his music, and he did Dune, and he did all these big motion pictures, and no words, right? Just absolute beautiful. And we're sitting there in the service, and I don't think there's a dry eye. Like, he
Yeah.
didn't even have to say anything. He had to
Yeah.
read scripture. He didn't have to, do
Yeah.
anything. We were just sitting there, and he was talking about the power of music and how, like, even atheists who don't believe there's a God at
Yeah.
all are moved by the gift of music.
Yeah.
And it was just such an interesting take. And I won't go down the whole,
Yeah.
rabbit trail of, what the sermon was, but it was so interesting because the rest of the day, all I did was listen to Hans Zimmer. I was
Yeah.
just like, I was crying most of the day. I couldn't put my finger on the emotion. Like, I
Yeah.
wasn't sad. I was
Yeah.
happy, but it was just this weird,
Hmm.
you know, like feeling. And then fast forward to like a month later, I was in Paris and I went to the opera. And operas, I mean, I'm having to read the subtitles the whole time because it's in French. And I don't even think the French should understand because it was an opera. But
Right.
it was just, it was almost 3 hours long. And I'm like, I mean, besides a football game, I don't think I could sit still for 3 hours. But my
Right.
mouth was just wide open as I'm
Yeah.
watching this immense amount of heavenly talent and don't really understand what's going on unless I'm like squinting to look at the subtitles of what the music's saying. And it was just such an interesting thing to sit there and go, wow, I don't know why all humans are wired like this, but it's true. And it's the
Yeah.
same reason why, like in commercials, the commercials get louder than the actual,
Yeah.
production or
Yeah.
whatever. And they're playing like music in the background, and you're swayed to buy something. You're
Yeah.
swayed to sponsor a child or a dog or
Yeah.
whatever. And so
Yeah.
I do find it interesting too with like big visionaries. It seems as though big visionaries have a like appreciation for the arts as well, like the
Yeah.
creativity side of things, because I think it soothes us. I think it
Yeah.
soothes because I'm high occupancy and I'm
Yeah.
always go, go, go. I'm connector. I'm like, let's go, let's get a connection. Let's, I don't know, build a house. I don't care what it is. I want to do it. But there
Yeah.
is something like when you have that creative outlet that you feel closer to God, even if
Yeah, no,
even
there's
if
no doubt. I
it's
mean, I've been so
insane.
blessed, being around really music. I was funny. I grew up in a family. My father was in the restaurant entertainment business, and I laughed today. I said I'm the only Greek and the smartest Greek not to go in it. But my dad had these very well-known college bars called Dooley's, and they were in college campus. The first one was in Champaign, Illinois, with the University of Illinois. Then East Lansing with Michigan State, Ann Arbor, University of Michigan, Tempe, Tucson, Boulder. They all went to these big colleges, these huge nightclubs. 10,000 square feet would be food and games, and then the other side would be live music. And
Oh wow.
my dad I grew up with Magic Johnson since we've been babies in the same town. And, I still hear from his mother every 2 weeks, Christina calling me to ask me how I'm doing. I just saw Irvin recently, but my dad gave Irvin one of his first jobs spinning records at Dooley's. But there's a really cool story. I shared it with you a little bit about U2 and Bono. So my dad in 1982, 83, he booked U2 at his college nightclub in East Lansing, Michigan for $6 a ticket.
Wow.
And what was really strange, I was on Capitol Hill and I had a meeting. I was meeting with Congresswoman Kay Granger from Texas, who chaired a subcommittee on appropriations that dealt with giving money to AIDS and different things like that. And Kay, in the middle of the meeting in the Capitol, Kay goes, Steve, I'm really sorry. I've got to call our meeting short. I've got Bono here. And I go, Bono, you too? She goes, yeah. I go, oh, I go, Kay, you're not going to believe this. It was a Wednesday. And on the upcoming Saturday, U2 was playing in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium in front of 70,000 people. I go, that's so weird. I'm going to the concert. I go, but Kay, the real story is my dad hired U2 for $6. She goes, oh, you got to meet him. So she takes me into the conference room where they're having an Bono and his wife sat across the table, just the two of them. The other end of the table were all the congressmen on that committee, and then staff and myself against the wall. And I listened to Bono give this beautiful, impassioned speech about how no child should be born with the AIDS and born with AIDS after the year 2015. And I'm thinking, wow, here's a guy who's got his own private island. He's a billionaire. He can do whatever he wants, but he really wants to make an impact. And so after the meeting, she goes, Bono, you've got to meet somebody who's got a great story. So we go up there and we meet, and I tell him, he goes, oh my God. He said, your father owned do. He says, your father's still alive. And I said, yeah. And I'm kind of looking at him, and he's looking at me like, he goes, I want to meet him. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, he's in his 80s and he'd love that. He
Yeah.
goes, and he's going, you're wondering why? And I said, well, and he goes, it's people like your father that took the chance on 19-year-old kids across the pond to give us our first, job. And he said, I owe great gratitude to him. And he goes, I still have the t-shirt of the Dooley's Irish guy with the beer overflowing of the mug. He goes, framed in my home in Dublin, Ireland. I said, why? Because it's the first Irish name bar that hired us. So
Wow.
that's such cool. So I was around music all the time, and he would book
Mhm.
Hall and Oates and Earth, Wind and Fire in Chicago, a lot of these classic bands like that. And so music has always been, I brought my girls up listening to Sinatra, to Counting Crows, or whatever you name it. They
Yep.
they
Classic.
they love all that music. And matter of fact, my youngest daughter named our boat Summer Wind. So there's that Sinatra theme. So yeah, and it was funny too. We talk about Reggie Ball, who's a dear friend. A lot of people, Reggie was a Secret Service agent, and he guarded Reagan, Bush, and Clinton. Retired under Clinton, and great story. And when Reggie, retired from the Secret Service, he met up and coming singer who's now a Grammy nominated singer and one of my dearest friends because of the introduction of Reggie Kem. So the viewers out there want to listen to Kem, just incredible singer. And I got to know Kem, and he became a friend when my mother passed away about 7 years ago, pancreatic cancer. She loved Kem, loved his music. And Kem has a song that is so moving called "A Mother's Love" that he wrote. And in the middle of January, he flew up from uh, Atlanta, Georgia with a pianist, and he performed that song at my mom's funeral. So those
Hmm.
type of friends that, but it was music, right? That my mom loved, that I loved, that brought. So I've been so blessed with, all the people. People, how do you meet all these people? How do you know?
Hmm.
And I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. I'm always seem to be in the right place at the right time. But I do believe, like we talked about, dreaming big, manifesting, putting positive vibes out into the universe, and in turn those come back. And so it's yeah, everybody says about being in the right place at the right time. Yes. But it's also being able to manifest, and then figuring out what is the reason. Why did I meet these people? How
Hmm.
was I in this position? The weirdest thing on Capitol Hill, meeting with a congresswoman. Bono's there. I'm going to see his concert on Saturday. My dad booked, all these things kind of work in this whole universal type method that if you're open to it, you can see a lot of great things.
Yeah, I love the verse that talks about God putting us on the best pathway for our life. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we get so like, what's the path? What am I doing? Is it, and I think it's that level of trust of like, God created me. He formed me in my mother's womb. He knows me and he knows the steps I'm taking. Like he knows that you were going to be there that day. Like
Knows
he's
every single
feet
hair
on
on
our
the top
head.
of your head. And
And
yep.
so if he knows us and loves us like that, like we can trust him. Like we can trust that whatever dream and desire he put in our hearts, like he can make that come to fruition. And it doesn't mean we sit back and do nothing, but I've noticed this, in my own life. I'm in real estate, and real estate is finicky. Like there's the market. That's a factor I can't control.
Yeah.
I can't control people's finances. I can't control people's thought processes on buying or selling homes, right? And it's been like an interesting but great challenge to just be like, all right, like I got to show up and do my part, but all of these other things are not in my hands, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like connections for my
Yeah.
podcast. It's like I had a vision and a podcast, or a vision of this podcast to host, guests and industry leaders and athletes and all these things, and you got to start, but it doesn't mean that like I was on my own and God was like, go figure this out. Like connection upon connection and miracle and open
Yeah.
doors and things that I'm just like, whoa, like you care about this. You care
Yeah.
about me and you see me. And
Yeah.
I think that's the mindset that we all should have. It's like I'm seen and I'm cared about. It's not always going to be easy. It doesn't mean we are promised a perfectly, you know, perfect straight life, but he does care about us and put us on the best pathway for our life. And Steve, I've so
Yeah.
enjoyed, hearing all the twists and turns and the
Yeah.
connections and the miracles and the really cool opportunities that you've just maximized and been able to be selfless in and to find solutions for problems other people might not be able to find. And whether it's negotiating or, I'm sure there was plenty of breakfasts and lunches with people that we will never know or see, but it created change. And in that wake of change, have been better opportunities for others and better opportunities like for yourself and your family. So I think it's absolutely incredible. I do want to ask you a few rapid fire questions before we get to
Sure.
our write it down. If you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would it be?
Oh, wow. Foghorn Leghorn.
Okay, I do not know who that is.
I'm dating you on that one.
Yeah, I don't know who
Yeah,
that is
well,
at all.
maybe you know what? I would give you cartoons when you weren't even born, like Johnny Quest.
Yeah,
You
see?
wouldn't know that, right?
Mm-mm. So who
So,
is that? Give us millennials who that is.
oh God, Foghorn Leghorn was the big rooster who was always plotting against and had just great lines. Just
Uh,
always had these one-liners that was really good in a Southern accent.
okay.
And so it was fun. It was just funny,
I
right?
think I know the rooster, but I didn't know that was the
Yeah.
rooster's
He would
name.
say something like, "Boy, that's about as funny as a porcupine in a balloon factory." And so he would have sayings like a lot of things. That he goes, that woman's got a body like a freeway from Fort Worth to Texas, no curves. And this is like you're watching this as kids, and
Yeah.
it's really maybe this is for adults,
For
but
adults, but it goes over your
yeah,
head. That's
yeah,
like all like
yeah,
cartoons now.
yeah.
Okay, what sport would you compete in the Olympics?
Oh, wow, that's great. Boxing.
Boxing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a huge
All right.
boxing fan. I
Okay.
mean, I could kind of tilt by. I'm in my cigar lounge,
Yeah.
but if you see right up there is Muhammad Ali,
Oh wow.
one of my
Think up.
favorite athletes. I think you can see with his hand out.
Yep.
Yeah, and so yeah, boxing.
Boxing. Okay.
And I'm a
If
big
you
Stallone fan, so I like that he brought boxing, made
Oh
boxing
yeah. Oh
into
yeah.
Rocky.
Rocky. I love
Yeah,
Rocky. That's my dad doesn't watch any movies or any shows besides football, but he will watch Rocky. Like he
yeah,
has all of them. That's his favorite.
yeah.
If you could be any age in life, what age would you be forever?
Um, 40.
40. Was that a pivotal or great year for you, or was that just like, oh, that's a happy medium?
Think it's a happy medium. I mean,
Yeah.
you fought through the adolescence of teenager and then in your 20s, but finally 40, you're getting to be where you are and established and more confident and still a lot of energy and yeah,
Good mature
it was a
age.
good yeah. I thought it was yeah, it's a good mature age,
Yes. All
but
right.
still you can still feel like you're a child.
40. Okay, I got
Right,
a I got a
right.
solid 10 years before I'm 40, but that's okay. So, Steve, we are at the point of the show where I ask each guest to give the audience something to write down. So, Steve Scofes, what is your write it down?
My write it down is perseverance. And I live by that. And that is you get knocked down, you get up, you get knocked down, you get up, you get knocked down, you dust yourself off, and you keep going.
Mm,
And, I was told a long time ago, and I shared this with you before, that the difference between a loser and a winner is the winner just tried one more time.
mm-hmm. It's true.
And it's about not giving up. And I've been wit's end, and we all have, where we've tried so hard and we've done everything possible, and you're just tired and you get exhausted. I'm done. I'm done. But if there's something that I can say to anybody, don't be done. Keep going, and persevere. I mean, last I knew, perseverance was a Christian virtue,
Mm-hmm.
and just keep going and finding. I have a really good friend, Matthew Kelly, who's I don't know how many multiple New York Times best-selling author, of a number of books, Seven Levels of Intimacy. Um, he's got one now, Slowing Down to the Speed of Joy, which I'm just starting to read.
Oh,
He's
wow. I
the
like
one
that
saying,
title.
his life,
Yeah.
like many of us, our life is like a Ferrari without brakes.
Mm-hmm.
We need to slow down because busy isn't always the best thing.
Mm-mm.
But I just think don't give up. Keep going, and if everything it was easy, everybody would do it.
It's true. And no wonder you like boxing. You get
Yeah,
back up again every single
yeah, that's
time.
true. That's
Yep.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, persevere. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. I always think of Jimmy Valvano, the famous coach who passed away, the basketball coach. That's what he talks about on ESPN every year when they're raising money is don't ever give up. And you just don't know that doing that, making that one more phone call, setting that one more meeting, sending that one more email, that could be the one. And that's why I said, I think the difference between an unsuccessful person, a successful person, the successful person who just tried one more time.
One more time. It's true.
Yeah,
It's true. I love that. Write it down, Steve. Thank you so much for joining us.
my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Write It Down podcast. This podcast is a part of the 1513 network. You can catch a variety of shows on their website, 1513.com. If you enjoy listening to Write It Down, please subscribe, share with your friends, and if there's any ink left in your pen, write a review. For more content, follow the fun on Instagram by following at WIDPOD. That spells WIDPod. It's super cool. Stands for Write It Down Podcast, but it's abbreviated to WIDPod. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we will catch you later.